to discuss for a moment tools of the trade. Tools of the trade. For those of you that have seen the trunk of my car, the pictures of the trunk of my car up here, this is a sample of some of the things that I carry with me in selling real estate. I've had people say to me, well, gee, do you need all that stuff? Can you sell houses without that? Of course you can. I think most of you came here to learn how you could list 20 or 30 houses in a month, didn't you? Yeah. Well, when you guys come on, you're a strong bunch. With these things, some of it you may use, some of it you may never use, but wouldn't it be better to have it for that time that you did need it, that you might have gotten a listing if only you had that compass in the car, or whatever it might have been. Let's take a look here at some of the tools of the trade, and I'll try to explain to you briefly about how I was using some of them. In your briefcase, number one, in a legal-size manila folder, I would carry 3 full copies. With my deposit receipt, I was using 4 copies in that. I would have 3 full sets of those copies, just extras with me. Boy, I almost scream when I hear people say, well, I have to drive over to the office and pick up some deposit receipts before we can write this up, or a listing pad, or whatever it might be. I tell you, if you'll start doing these things, this has actually happened to me. I have had people in my farm area, in my service area, actually run off into the street, out of the driveway into the street, and stopping me when they saw me drive down the street to invite me to come in and list their house. Now, if I had just gotten my real estate license, is there a chance that might happen to me? No. You've got to get out there and get known. You've got to circulate to percolate. And I had been making those contacts, and with that type of situation, that's what happens. That's the results. That's where you go to if you'll just quit fighting what I'm trying to teach you and just go use it. Don't try to find out all the reasons in the world, or what about this hypothetical case? Baloney! Just go do it. Skim the cream. All I want you to do, folks, is just skim the cream. If you'll do the prospecting like I'm trying to show you, would you agree that you're probably going to have a lot more leads to follow up on? Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? You've been drinking again. Wouldn't you agree also that with all those leads, you're probably going to have better qualified and motivated sellers? Yeah. We're not cutting that out. In your briefcase, in this manila folder, carry copies of the listing agreement or cooperative service agreement, seller's worksheets or seller's net sheets, relocation transfer forms, comparative market analysis, copies, counteroffer forms, deposit receipts, buyer's worksheets, buyer's problem analysis sheets, buyer's investment sheet, whatever you want to call them. Carry a legal pad and clipboard in your briefcase, a comb, postage stamps. You may have to have something you need to get in the mail right away. Carry these things with you so you don't have to drive around trying to find a postage machine. There are 2 things you've got to get working for you right away. That's the mailman and the telephone company. Your biggest time management features that there is. Your checkbook, that's with your personal account. Your appointment book, and for those of you that do not have a good appointment book, I don't get any kickbacks, but I recommend this little day timer. It's called a pocket day timer. This is a senior size with a vinyl covering. It's got a place here to carry your ballpoint pen. It's got a brand new insert. There's a page here for each day of the month. It's got tear-off sheets here on the corners. You can take the tab off. A little calendar in the front. It's got a little phone directory in the back. You can carry extra postage stamps. See here, I even carry postage stamps with me. I carry these little record plate cards or little record plate sheets that I was showing you before, just as little scratch notes. Maybe I think of something I want to write down, and I put it in there. That's all time management. Thomas Brothers map, or a good city map. A calculator. I can't see how people can be in real estate without a calculator. Rate schedules and financing guides. That's title insurance, escrow fees, etc. Financing guides. Extra ballpoint pens. A rubber stamp with your name and your phone number that you can stamp on your brochures. In your garage, keep a minimum of 10 open house signs of your own. And in there, I would also recommend that you use like a 3-foot nylon tie, just a string of nylon. It comes about an 1/8 inch in diameter is what I like. Cut them in 3-foot lengths. And then the next time you put your open house signs out, tie them, just drape it through the top of your open house sign and just tie a knot in the back of it. Wrap it around a street sign, a telephone pole, a stop sign, or whatever it might be. I don't know about you guys, but I have seen these kids on these little banana seat bicycles. They enjoy nothing better than to be tooling down the sidewalk with their foot out, like that, kicking your open house signs into the ditch. Now, one thing they learn real quick is when those signs don't move, they do. And when they bounce out of the gutter a couple times, they'll quit that. And another thing I did is I actually had like big pillowcases made out of duck cloth to where there were envelopes for each one of my open house signs. Boy, when I put out a sign, it was a work of art. Not one of these scratched up, banged up, worked over, 10-year-old open house signs. It was fresh and clean looking. And also another thing I did on my open house signs, you've seen this, what they call space tape. You can get it at Grand Auto Store, any place they sell auto supplies. This space tape that reflects green, yellow, orange, the whole spectrum. I'd take about a 4-inch wide roll of that. It's expensive. It's about $12 a roll. But then I'd cut it into about a 15-inch strip and place it on the top or on some place where it wasn't covering up the phone number or the name of the company or anything. I'd place that on my open house sign. Now, if you do that, be careful, because the kids on the banana seats, they will go by and they will peel that off and put it on their bicycles. So what you have to do is get some of this epoxy cement and go right around the edges so they can't peel it off. It took me a couple rolls of tape to figure that out. If you're holding open house in a neighborhood and there's 3 open house signs on the corner and then yours is across the street, who's going to be the first one to be seen coming down the highway? Yours. That thing's going to stand up like a sore thumb. You get a sun reflection on that space tape, man, it just lights up the whole intersection. In my toolbox, in my trunk, I would carry a Polaroid camera, a good supply of film, obviously, to take pictures. Lock boxes. You can't be traveling around trying to figure out where a lockbox is. I think I had about 40 lock boxes of my own, and I painted them yellow. I knew that they were mine. If they get taken or something, that rascal's going to stand out. I never had one taken after I painted them. Sold signs. Carry sold signs with you. Get an offer accepted, get that sold sign on there after you know that the buyer's been qualified to some extent from the lender. Your listing presentation book. Boy, when you put these rascals together, take care of them. I see people trying to use these old scrapbook-looking things. The material's falling out of it. The plastic sheets are all destroyed. The notebook looks like a truck had run over it. Show some professionalism. Show some interest in the client. One of my concepts that I had when I first got in the real estate business, even if I couldn't afford it, and believe me, folks, there are days when I remember very vividly. In fact, let me just say this. When I first got in the real estate business, I almost sold everything. I almost sold my car. I almost sold my furniture. I can remember days when I put $1 worth of gas in the car to go show property, because my credit cards, they were already taking those back, and I couldn't afford to fill the tank up. Anything that will teach you how to close is when you know that if you have to show this guy 4 more houses, you may run out of gas with him. Let him know it too. Your area service planner, that's your record plate book. Flashlight, and I recommend a good strong flashlight for viewing property at night. A 100-foot tape measure, that's for measuring the outside, and I recommend a fiberglass tape, not a steel tape, but a fiberglass. You can get a steel tape for about 1/10 of the cost of a fiberglass, but then they're going to get rusty, they're going to get damp, they make a lot of noise. Now, a good fiberglass tape is probably going to cost you maybe in the neighborhood of about $60, but they're well worth it. One of the concepts I had when I got in the business was I was going to provide the very best service I could possibly provide for my clients. And I was going to make that investment. That's where a lot of people today fall down on the job. They don't make any investment, and consequently, they don't get any return. I made the investment. I bought these tools, maybe not all of them at one time, but when I had an escrow closed, I'd go buy a sledgehammer, I'd go buy a new hammer, I'd buy a level, I'd buy this or something. Treat myself with a tool that will help me to be more professional and to provide more service to my clients. A 20-foot tape measure like the one I showed here for measuring the inside of the property. I found those to work better. A hammer, nails, business cards. Keep a good supply of business cards. A pad in your trunk. I think you should carry a full pad of listing pad. A pad of deposit receipts. A pad of counteroffer forms. A good supply of envelopes and stationery. A very good supply of pass-out literature. Your open house kit. Your tape recorder. Now your open house kit, you're going to get that when you come to the selling course. And it is fantastic. We're always selling, you know that? You may ask, as a sales trainer, what are you selling? See, I'm selling you on the idea of coming to my selling course, which we're going to have in the near future. And it's a shame if you don't come because my talk there is so much better. Your tape recorder, your continuous education program. You've got to keep that tape recorder with you all the time. Driving from Sacramento down here 2 days ago, what do you think I was doing driving down? Listening to the radio or looking at the cows on the side of the road? I had my tape recorder on, listening to cassette tapes. Tapes I bought 5 years ago. But there's something in there that will make me think of something that might give me a spur of an idea to create something new for today. And your tape recorder can be the best investment you ever had. If I knew my tape recorder, this was the only one I could ever have, I could never buy another one, I wouldn't sell that thing for $10,000. I would not. Because then what would I have to play my Roger Butcher cassette package on? Board of Realtors Salesman's Handbook, umbrella, raincoat, hat, rain boots. Now whether you ever use them or not, it's going to be up to you. But the point is that you have them. Paper cups. If you're holding a house open in the heat of the day like today, and the people have moved out of the property, there's no glass for the drink of water, and the kids are thirsty, how do you think you're going to be able to keep those people's attention when they're looking at that property? If the kids are uncomfortable and they can't have a glass of water, you've got to have some paper cups with you. Paper towels. As an example, this is not the selling course, but I'll just give you a hint. When you're doing an open house, I like to have a big plate of barbecued chicken. And then when they come in the door, instead of the old familiar salesman sitting in the chair watching television or out in the backyard not paying any attention at all, or running up and grabbing their hand and jerking their arm off, I like to slap them right in the palm with a big piece of greasy chicken. Is he now going to go out and drive his car? You do have a captive audience. Now you're going to want him probably to wash his hands, or he's going to want to, so you have some paper towels, should there not be facilities of towels there. And I would recommend that you not use the seller's towels. And this husband and wife with these two darling little daughters came in, all right? So they had been out looking for houses. They'd been in the market for about 3 months, dragging these kids on Sunday afternoons and Saturday afternoons through every open house they could ever see. So here they come through, and I started getting them involved in this property. So just as we were getting down to some real interesting things, I was getting them really involved. Here's this one little girl saying, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." Well, I hope I don't have to explain what she needed to take care of. The normal salesman would not have had the facility. So the mother says, "Well, we're going to have to take her home and take care of her. Why don't you come over later this evening?" Now, do you want to take care of it now or this evening? Obviously now, because while you have them emotionally involved in that property, because a very good chance they're going to cool off. So I says, "You take her in there to the bathroom. I'll be back in just a moment." Ran out to the car, got the toilet paper, got a little bar of soap, aerosol spray, came back in with the paper towels. I says, "Now you go in there and take care of her, and me and the husband will go ahead and figure up some figures that you can look at." See, the average salesman lost the sale. You don't accidentally get a sale. You don't accidentally get a listing. It's premeditated. Campers? Pampers? Pampers? I don't know. Heck, try it. For ladies, I recommend you have a pair of pantyhose. Shoe shine kit. Maybe Saturday morning we may be out showing property. If the ground is damp or the dog is back there and you goofed, then maybe you have a listing appointment later this afternoon or that afternoon. How would you like to go into a house with dirty shoes? Kick your shoes off, clean them up. Little shoe shine kit. You can get them with a little rag. It's got a dabber and everything. Boy, they're very inexpensive and will take care of the job. Spray wax for furniture. If you're going to hold a house open, you come in and the lady hasn't dusted for about 2 years. What's your chance of selling it? Is she going to notice if it's your listing when she comes back that the furniture's been dusted? You better believe it. Don't do what I heard one salesman did. On the top of the TV, he wrote dusty. Air freshener. Air freshener. There was a house in Sacramento that had cement flooring or cement foundation. It had expired a couple times. Nobody could sell it. It was vacant. Been vacant for about 6 months, and nobody could sell it. I like these problem situations. When nobody else can sell them, I want it because I'm going to find out a way to sell that rascal. I went over after the property had expired this one time, got a presentation, and did get a listing on the property. One of the first things I did after that is I went through and I sprayed the hallways and all the rooms real well because with the winter, the moisture and everything, that damp flooring was creating an odor or a fragrance in that house that was unconducive to showing the property. It was within my area, so I would go by like every other day and spray the house. We sold the thing in about 2 weeks just by having the air freshener like that. Again, you can use air freshener if you come into a house. If you're going to show it, if you're meeting the people at the property, sometimes you need to do that. I don't advocate it, meeting them at the property, but sometimes you can. Maybe the house doesn't smell all that good. Explain to Mrs. Jones that I've got an idea how we may be able to enhance the beauty of this dump. Don't use that term. A compass, a simple little compass. Let me explain to you. One day I was holding this open house. It was a beautiful home. I just listed it the day before, had just put my signs out, was holding open house. There was good traffic coming through it, it was priced right. And this guy with his teenage son came in and he fell in love with it. He was an Oriental guy, just a marvelous guy. Him and his son came in and he liked it, but I got to talking with him and he says, we've already put a $200 deposit on a new home in a tract. So I said, is the important thing is that you get the home that you like? And he says, yes. I said, if there are a way that we can figure out that you don't lose your $200, that we can get you into the home here that you like, can we go ahead? And he says, yes. He said, first of all, though, we're going to have to sell it to the wife because she really liked the other one, and I understood that. So I said, you go get her and bring her back. I'll be here till 4 o'clock. A little bit later, here he comes back with her. She's walking through. I like the newer home better. You know, this doesn't have, first one thing. He says, but I like it. So I started getting them together a little bit, and she figured out a way how she could not possibly buy that house. I found out with talking with them that she had a collection of these beautiful bonsai trees. Just beautiful. She had about 20 of them. When she walked through the house the first time, I saw her look out the back patio, and she pointed and said, west, not that way. Now, she really spoke Japanese, you know, broken English, Japanese. And she said, west that way, no buy house. And I couldn't figure it out. So I got to talking with the husband because he spoke better English. And what it got down to was the back of the house, the patio area, had to be facing directly toward west. Because for these beautiful bonsai trees, they had to have the sun and the shading and the lighting just perfect all through the day. And they were beautiful after I saw them after they got moved in. I got her to commit herself. I said, in other words, what you're telling me is, if west was that way, that you'd buy the house. Now, folks, I'll be honest with you. I knew that west was some way out that direction, but I didn't know exactly what way it was. So she committed herself. She said, yes, west that way, buy house. I said, wait here. Ran out to the car, got my compass, came back, ran into the kitchen, slammed it down on the table, prayed. Lo and behold, west was right that way. I said, west that way, buy house. Thank you. Sat down and wrote it up. She didn't say another word. White graphite. White graphite. If you're going over for a listing appointment, the seller lets you in and you start to close the door, or he may close it behind you, whatever the case, you may notice that the door jamb, or if he's having trouble getting the door jamb open or something like that. Now, this is in a rare situation, I agree. If he's having trouble getting that thing open, and you say, gee, there must be some difficulty with the mechanism inside. You take your screwdriver, and you take the plate off, and you take and squirt some white graphite around inside. You put it back together, you hit the lever like that, and it all starts working just right again. Then you go in for your listing appointment. How do you look? Prepared. Prepared. It's not by accident, people, that you get these listings. I bet I've had 20 people come up and ask me what the cinnamon powder's for. How many would like to know? When you're doing your listing presentation, when I go through recapping my items that I carry in the trunk of my car, I make sure that I say cinnamon powder about the 5th or 6th thing through. I have never had a lady of the house ever miss the question, what's the cinnamon powder for? And I say, ma'am, I'm glad you asked. By the way, let me ask you, what cabinet do you keep your pie tins in? And she might say, that little cabinet right there next to the oven. And I say, good, let me jot that down. Pie tins in the cabinet next to the oven. And I make that note. And then I explain to her like this. I say, as an example, we may be holding open house with your permission this weekend or maybe next weekend, but if I were coming over for open house and we find out that morning you and the husband are working to get the house ready for me to hold open that afternoon, you're probably going to create an appetite, and maybe you're running behind a little bit. Maybe you fix a tuna fish sandwich or a bowl of chili or something, and when you're hungry, that really tastes good, I'm sure, but it may not leave that good a fragrance in the home, and we do want the home to show to its best advantage, don't we? So what I will do when I come over, see, I'm not saying if I come over, I'm saying when I come over, I will take one of the little pie tins, if I notice the fragrance, out of the cupboard. I'll sprinkle cinnamon powder in there, pop it in the oven for a few minutes. It'll smell like fresh cinnamon cookies all through the air. And another thing is you can also use vanilla or coconut extract and just put a drop of it on the burner of the stove also. Like if you've got an electric element, heat it up and just put a drop on there. It'll go, then in just a few minutes it'll smell really nice all through the home. These little things that make the difference. 3-in-1 oil. 3-in-1 oil. How many times have you went on a listing appointment or a presentation appointment and the guy opens the door and it starts squeaking and screeching and everything? All you do is say, I can take care of that for you. Run out to the car, come back with a couple paper towels, drop a couple drops of oil on the door hinges, move it a couple times, wipe off the excess. How do you look? How do you look? You see, there's too many people that's trying to eliminate salesmanship and showmanship out of real estate. I don't want to. I'd like to see you put it back in it because people like it and they eat it up and they like to see it because, again, it shows them a way that they are going to benefit by having somebody that is finally concerned with their situation. Maybe if you even had 5 other agents in ahead of you, and I know there's a lot of thought on this. Some people say, I think that you should be the first agent there, but most people I find say, you should be the last agent there, if you can always time that. Friend, if I get ahead of you, and you come in behind me and I didn't get it, you're going to have a rough row to hoe, I guarantee you. I guarantee it. I would like to be the first agent there any time, because I have many times been on presentations to where the guy has 4 and 5 and 6 other salespeople lined up to see after me, and we decide that there is no better way to market his home than through me. But the thing is, I let him make that decision, not me. I lead him warmly to that decision. Double-bitted axe, 10-inch level. When I first went into real estate, now I know now many of you are using these nice big upright signs, and you have a sign service come out and install them for you, and I think that's great. I really like that idea. But when I first got in real estate, we didn't have those. They weren't available. They were using them down south, and I hadn't even seen them when I first started in, and we were using these little 2x2 stakes to put the for sale sign on, and you'd take 2 signs and you'd nail it to the thing, and it'd rain, they'd buckle, your nails would pop out, and they'd all be on the ground again. Not my sign. Not my sign. When the ground was too hard to drive anything into the ground, instead of having the sign nailed to the tree or leaning up against the house or nailed on the front of the garage door like so many of them I had seen, I used my double-bitted axe. I would actually chop a hole in the ground, however deep it needed to be. I would place then my 2x2 stake sign down in there. I'd pack it in, tamp it with my hammer, pour water on it, and I would take my level and measure that to make sure it was exactly right, standing tall, straight, and true. And then when I put my sign on the side of it, I'd put 1 nail on the top, and then I'd use my level to come along like that. Now, anybody knew that if you ever saw a sign of Roger Butcher's that looked tilted, you better notify the owners because their house is sinking. Because mine were always standing tall and true. And another thing, when I put my for sale signs up, even after we did go to the upright signs, I would come out with the furniture polish and spray a big S on it, be out there and buff it off with a paper towel, put a nice coat of wax on it, just whistling, having a good time. Now what happens now when you've just listed this house, you're polishing this sign, and the guy across the street's thinking of selling, and he sees this nut out there? Huh? And then he thinks about the house 4 doors away that's been on the market for 6 months, no open houses, no service, they never see the guy, and here's this guy that feeds all the dogs out there polishing this sign. How do you think you look? You look good, right. Sledgehammer. Now this is when the ground was soft enough that you could drive them in. I'd use a sledgehammer. Screwdriver, obviously, to drive screws. Pliers for various things. Whisk broom. Maybe Saturday morning I was showing property, or one evening or something, and we got the car dirty. And if I had another appointment to show property again to another client later, I don't want them getting into a car that's all filthy and dirty and for sale signs laying in the back seat. And I start, well, just a minute, let me scrape the newspapers out and, the kids' toys and take the basket out of the back seat. You got to be ready for some of this. For those of you that will do this, just think of how you're eliminating your competition. Did I strike home with somebody back there? If you were to have these, and if it only made you 1 more listing a month, would it be worth it? Yes.